All right, today we're diving into a term you're going to hear a lot more about: AI sovereignty. Think of it as the next great global competition, not over land or resources, but over the very technology that's going to define all of our futures. And believe me, the starting gun has already fired.
So that brings us to the big question, right? Governments all around the world are scrambling to get control of their own AI ecosystems, setting deadlines as early as 2026. But is this just smart strategy, a necessary move for national security and economic growth? Or are we just building digital walls that could lead to a really fragmented and maybe even a more dangerous world? Okay, so before we get too far ahead of ourselves, what exactly is AI sovereignty? Well, it really comes down to a nation's control over four key things. You've got the data that feeds the AI, the actual models themselves, the raw computing power to run everything, and finally, the rules and governance that oversee it all.
And I really want to stress this. This is not some academic debate for the future. No, we are right in the middle of a new race for control, and honestly, the stakes could not be higher.
So here's the key thing to understand. Right now, governments are starting to look at the nuts and bolts of AI. We're talking microchips, cloud platforms, huge data centers, and they're treating them like critical national assets. It's like just as they would protect their power grid or their water supply, they're now seeing their AI infrastructure in exactly the same light.
You know, what's fascinating about all this is that even though the tech is brand new, the pattern, well, it's a story we've seen play out time and time again. This scramble for AI control is just the latest version of a very old story. Yeah, just look at this timeline. It really lays it all out. Back in the 19th century, it was all about controlling railways and steel. Then you jump to the 1940s, and suddenly it's the race for nuclear power. Fast forward to our lifetime, the 2000s, and it became about digital sovereignty, controlling data and the cloud. So whenever a new technology becomes foundational to society, nations instinctively try to control it. And AI? Well, it's just the next big one on the list.
And you know, history doesn't just repeat itself, it rhymes. We see these same patterns cropping up. First, these pushes for control always seem to get more intense right after some kind of major shock. Think a war or a pandemic. Then, countries start pouring money into what they call national champions to try and win on the global stage. And this is the really important part. The global rules, the treaties, the agreements, they almost always come after a messy, free-for-all period of competition.
So this really gets us to the core of the issue, doesn't it? It's this massive tug-of-war between the incredible promise of AI sovereignty and some of the very, very real dangers.
Because if a country just dives into this head first without thinking it through, the risks are huge. You could end up so focused on security that you actually kill the open research that makes innovation happen in the first place. Or you could build these digital walls, but then realize you don't actually have what you need to thrive behind them. You can also shatter global standards, which just makes everything harder for everyone. And maybe the most chilling part, sovereignty can just become a convenient excuse for governments to increase surveillance and control over their own people.
Let's talk about the economy for a second, because the upside here is, well, it's pretty incredible. I mean, just imagine AI perfectly tailored for local industries. Think German manufacturing or Singaporean shipping, powering really efficient and trusted public services. That's the dream. But the flip side, the nightmare scenario, it's a world of what you might call AI mercantilism, with non-stop trade wars where computer chips and AI models are used as weapons. And that could create a permanent divide between the AI haves and the have-nots.
Okay, let's make this even more concrete. Think about a massive global problem like climate change. On one hand, the opportunity is huge. Nations could use their own sovereign AI to create super accurate climate models for their specific regions, right? But the risk is equally massive. What happens if every country starts hoarding its climate data, calling it a national asset? Global science grinds to a halt. Wealthier nations with better AI might adapt way faster, leaving poorer countries even more exposed and vulnerable than they already are.
Okay, so if going full-on isolationist is dangerous, but being completely open feels a little naive in today's world, is there another option? A smarter way forward that lets us avoid the worst of both worlds?
It turns out there is. And the answer isn't about building the tallest digital walls possible. It's about this idea called networked sovereignty. Basically, finding that sweet spot between having strong capabilities at home and having smart cooperation with others abroad.
So, how does a country actually do that? Well, it's a few key steps. First, you design your systems to work with others, not to be isolated. Interoperability is key.
Second, you have to invest in your people, in education, in fundamental research, not just in writing a bunch of rules. You can't have AI capability without human capacity. Third, and this one's not negotiable, you have to build in AI safety and human rights from the very beginning, not as an afterthought. And finally, you team up with other countries to form regional alliances to tackle those huge shared challenges, like climate or future pandemics.
All right, so we've been talking about some big ideas here. History, geopolitics, high-level policy, but let's bring this right back down to earth. Why does any of this actually matter to you?
It matters because the choices being made right now, today, by leaders all over the world, these choices are going to directly shape the digital world that you and I live in for decades to come. They will literally determine if AI becomes this incredible tool for global progress, or if it becomes something that just drives us further apart, creates new conflicts, and fragments the internet for good.
And that really leaves us with one final, big question to think about. As this whole race for AI sovereignty picks up speed, what are we building? Are we building a future of digital walls where every nation is its own isolated island? Or can we seize this moment to build digital bridges, creating a future that is both secure and connected? The honest answer is, we don't know yet. That story is being written as we speak.